Hey, what's up everyone? Ashley here. Welcome to Ashley Talks Movies. So, after many delays, Sony's latest comic book movie, Morbius, has finally hit the big screen. The film stars Jared Leto as Dr. Michael Morbius, a scientist who's suffering from a blood disorder who attempts to find a cure by splicing his DNA with bat DNA. And of course, the experiment doesn't go quite as planned. It causes him to gain not only superpowers, but also this unquenchable thirst for blood. So, probably the big question that many people have on their minds when it comes to Morbius is the movie worth the wait? Well, I'll answer that in a bit. But first, if you like the videos that I'm posting, please hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Also, feel free to jump into the comments below and share your thoughts on Morbius. Okay, so now on to the review. The word I would use to best describe Morbius would be frustrating. This is a very frustrating movie. On the one hand, you have a few things that really do work with this film. Most notably, it's Jared Leto in the lead role. Like, his performance isn't spectacular, but he's doing a good job with the material that he's given. He actually makes Michael Morbius come to life. And he actually gives this character some dimension. Again, it's not the most spectacular performance from Jared Leto because I've seen him in a lot of other movies and I think his roles in other movies are far better than this one. But again, given this film, he's doing a pretty good job. Beyond that, pretty much the rest of this movie is kind of a mess. I mean, the story is all over the place and it's really apparent in the second half of this movie. There are so many times where the film sets up something and you think it's going to be revisited or the film's going to follow through with it or there's going to be some payoff with it. But when you get to the second half of this movie, you quickly realize that that's not the case. There are ideas that are just thrown out there and they're never followed through with. And that was probably, again, one of the many frustrating aspects about this film. The story just kind of meanders and it's really strong from the first half of the movie. It gets you kind of invested. It sets up, establishes Michael Morbius and his backstory, and it's all very interesting. But again, once you get to the second half of this movie, it just all kind of falls apart. The film also doesn't know what to do with its characters. I mean, Michael Morbius aside, the rest of the characters in this movie are pretty uninteresting. And it doesn't help that the performances delivered by the actors are very wooden. Take Matt Smith. Matt Smith, I love Matt Smith. I think he's a really good actor. Matt Smith is not very interesting in this movie. And, he's playing Michael Morbius's childhood friend, Milo. And I don't know if it's necessarily just his performance or just the material he's given, but he's just is not able to really bring this character to life. And it was almost painful watching him. And then you have actors like Tyrese in this movie where he plays one of the detectives. And honestly, the two detectives in this movie with the whole trying to solve the murders that are happening in the city, that whole story arc could have completely been eliminated and it would not have impacted the film whatsoever, which means it was completely unnecessary. It doesn't really go anywhere. There's no reason to have those detectives there. There's no follow through with that. And Tyrese doesn't need to be in this movie. And he doesn't really bring anything special to this movie. This is not a knock against Tyrese. It's just literally, he doesn't bring anything to this character or anything like that. And I think probably the most frustrating part of this movie, besides all the other things I just listed, is that in many ways, Morbius feels like it's from another decade or two. It really feels outdated. It honestly felt like I was watching a movie from the early 2000s. And I'm not talking about the CGI used in this movie, because when I get to the part of this review where I talk about some of the things I did actually enjoy, the CGI was pretty decent, but just overall, the entire film just felt really stale. Now, there were a couple of things in this movie that I didn't think were terrible. Again, I already mentioned Jared Leto's performance was fine. And the CGI in this movie is fine too. I will say I really did enjoy, Michael Morbius gets these powers and he has bat-like powers. And I like how they did the visual interpretation of that with the CGI. It looked pretty cool. And that was about it. Yeah, I mean, I just, it's going to be interesting to see how this movie ties in with the other Sony comic book movies, especially because Sony's coming off that big high with Spider-Man No Way Home. And this one just feels like there was like little effort put into it. Last thing before I wrap up this review, there are 2 mid-credit scenes. I won't say end credit scenes because there's no scene at the very, very end of the movie, but there are 2 mid-credit scenes. And one of them is just absolutely terrible. It seems like that credit scene was just tacked on at the last minute. It felt very hokey. It was so bad. I'm not even going to tell you what it is in case you want to be surprised by it, but it's just not good. So to answer the question I posed earlier, is Morbius worth the wait? No, not really. Unless you want to wait for it to come out on streaming or something, then yes, maybe. So those are my thoughts on Morbius. If you've had a chance to watch the film, or maybe you're planning to watch it this weekend, share your thoughts in the comment section below. Like this video by hitting the thumbs up button, and don't forget to subscribe so you see more videos like this.